Hello and welcome to Paper Plays Julie K.
I'm so excited to have all of you here today. Welcome to the fourth installment of Creating with Window Envelopes. Each week I will be posting a new idea on how to create various junk journal elements using window envelopes that measure 8 5/8 by 3 5/8. But the majority of the ideas that I am sharing with you can also be modified to fit any window envelope that you already have in your stash. Today, I will be sharing with you a second version of a page hugger. Last week, I also did a version of a page hugger, so if you did miss that video, I will have that linked below in the description box. And for this one, I am going to be calling it a double window envelope because we're using two window envelopes. So a double window envelope page hugger with pockets. And so I do have 4 versions to share with you guys. Here is the first one, and I created this one with some 7 Gypsies paper and also another random piece of paper that I had that was lined in my stash. I'll hold it up close, and I did create a little tuck spot on this one. You can see the window envelope. I added some trim. Also the back side, I created a little tuck spot, so that comes out, and also this piece comes out right here. And then you could also journal on that if you want. I like to have lots of spots to journal. And then of course when you open it up, you see the second window envelope. And the inside I usually leave pretty blank or plain so that there's lots of journaling space. And each of these have the pockets that you pull out the journal cards in them. And then I also decided to make sure that there was something pretty to look at when you pulled out your journaling cards. And I did leave the journaling cards blank in all these, but you could easily add some rubber stamped images or you could collage on them. And you could collage so that you could see something pretty through your window envelope if you wanted to. So again, that was the first one I created. Here is the second one that I created. I had it upside down while I was doing my intro, but that's okay. And this one you can pull out. I have a little tag and a ticket. And again, I created a little tuck spot on that one with just some random pieces in my stash. And I'm not going to pull out the journal cards because they look exactly like the first one I just showed you. And then on the inside of this one, it's tea-dyed paper. I just added a piece of ephemera that was some birds and also an old piece of a wedding gown up there, lace. And on the back side, I did kind of a top tuck on this one. Just because there was some birds on that one, and I added the Learning to Fly sticker. That was a Tim Holtz sticker, and that's a Tim Holtz ticket also. So that was the second one I created. I also created this one, and there's a little bird cage, and I added a little piece of snippet that was sitting on my desk. There's a piece of cardboard behind there, some eyelash trim, some lace, another piece off of a wedding dress. And again, you can pull out the journaling card. The digital on this one right here is from Christie Art Designs. On the inside, I left it again blank. It was tea-dyed paper. And I stamped the word journal up at the top. And you can see some random little script stamps I used also just to decorate it slightly. And on the back side of this one, I have a little journaling spot, and I think this came off of a kit from Ephemera's Vintage Garden. It was just a leftover piece I had. I had a little random piece from some sort of collage kit that I bought at Tuesday Morning, and I added the stamped words that says story, and then I had these stickers that look like wax seals, and so I added that there as a little focal point. And so that was the third one I made. And this is the last one I made. And this one I did record. So if you guys continue to watch this video, you will see the tutorial of how I created this one. And I'll just kind of show it to you guys up close. So if you do want to play along and create with me, you can create this one. The tags do come out. So there's the window envelope, and then the window envelope on the inside. On the inside of this one, I also stamped the word journal. I added a little flower up at the top. And then on the back side, it's kind of a double tuck again. There's a tuck right there, and then also a tuck back here. And for those of you that kind of want to know how I put it together, but you don't really care to watch the whole process of me decorating, I will show you kind of the quick and dirty method of that one. So I have 2 envelopes right here. And you can see I cut off the bottoms and the sides. This one does measure 7 inches long, and it's a little shorter than 3 inches wide once I chopped off the tab on it. So that's the one envelope, and it opens up. And then here is the second envelope, and it normally would look exactly the same, but I reversed it. And then I attach them like this. So then you have your other envelope window showing right there, and that one right there. And then what you would do is, of course, sew around it or glue around it, and then I sew down the middle, and that gives you your little page hugger and double window envelope page hugger. You could, if you wanted to, also take this a step further, and you could actually sew in some pages and make it into a little booklet instead if you wanted to. And as far as using these in a journal, I will show you that real quick, and then we'll get into the tutorial part of it for those that want to watch that. So here is just a little traveler's, not really traveler's notebook, but a kind of a blank journal that I've been using just to show you guys. Most of my journals that I have are already fully decorated, but if this was your journal and you had a blank page and you wanted to add this page hugger, you would pick whatever page you want. So if this was the page, I would attach it like this onto the edge of my page so it's hugging the page. I would decorate a pretty paper clip. This is just a blank paper clip, and I would attach it like that. So on this one, if you were to go ahead and decorate it, then there'd be like some pretty lace or some pretty paper hanging down from it. And then you have it attached to both sides of your page. So that's a page hugger. So now stay tuned for the tutorial part of this video. To begin this project, you are going to need 2 window envelopes that are exactly the same, and you are going to need to be able to cut off the flaps of them. And the ones that I'm working with today are 8 5/8 by 3 5/8. We are going to trim them down. So the first thing that you are going to do is open them up. If they've already been used envelopes, that's okay too. You can cut them down too. So I'm just going to cut right along here. You can kind of see this little indentation right here in this envelope. And I'm just going to cut straight up right there. So I'm cutting off of the flap. Then you're going to go ahead and do the same thing with the other envelope. And then my next step is you're going to want to get it so that you can actually open up your envelope. So I'm going to cut off the top. Just a hair, just enough so that it opens. And then you are also going to cut off the bottom, and at this point you can make a decision how tall you want your page hugger to be. Most of my journals are going to be under 8 inches long, so I'm usually safe by doing like 7 or 7.5, and I think I'm going to do 7. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on this envelope also. So again, just cutting off a little bit off of the top of it, and then again measuring out to 7 inches. So you should be able to open up your envelopes like this. So we have 2 of those. So then the next step is I'm going to take one of my envelopes and I'm going to fold it, reverse the fold on it, and I'm going to put it on the inside of the first envelope. So that is our basic double window envelope page hugger with pockets, because once you glue it shut or sew it shut, you're going to have pockets here on both sides. And then your window envelopes are going to be showing, so then you can add, of course, journal cards and be able to see what's in there. So that's the basic of this project. For those of you that want to stick around and watch how I decorate it, I'd love to have you. So once you have cut your window envelopes and you have them somewhat assembled, I usually decorate and kind of sew. I decorate a little bit and then I sew and then I finish decorating. So I did earlier, I do have templates, which is basically this envelope without the window in it. And what I went ahead and did is I cut out the window part on a tea-dyed piece of paper and also a scrapbooking piece of paper. And this paper, if anyone's interested, it's called French Kiss. And I think it's by a company called Glitz Designs. I've had this in my stash for a long time, so I'm not quite sure where it came from. But this is the one that I will be using. And then again, the tea-dyed paper. So I went ahead and cut them out. You could also collage on these. So my first step then is I'm going to go ahead and glue this. And when I make these, I also cut them out a little bit larger than the envelope size. So then I can just trim down. It just makes it go faster. Once I get this glued down, you can see then I can just cut off the excess. So I'm going to go ahead and glue on the outside one with the scrapbooking paper. So this is the outside of my page hugger. I'm going to glue this one in place. I'm just going to stick a scrap piece of paper underneath my project here, just in case my glue seeps over. I'm going to go ahead and line up my window envelope section. And I just like to use like an old gift card, and I just spread my glue out just slightly. And this just helps keep it bubble up, the glue from bubbling up just by spreading it out. Next, I'm going to go ahead and just cut off the little excess scrapbooking paper off of this envelope. The next, I'm going to fold it back into its normal shape, and I have one of these scoreboards, and I just find it easy to use this. And you might still need to do a little bit more trimming the edges. I'm going to wait until the end to do that. I'm not too concerned with that yet until I get my other sheet in. So I'll wait before I trim that one. Next, we're going to go ahead and glue down the tea-dyed piece of paper. And I did ink the edges on the inside of this one just so that it would look nice. And again, this window envelopes. So the insides of the two window envelopes are going to be touching right here. And this is the part right here that I want to add the paper to. I'm going to go ahead and cut off the little excess tea-dyed paper that I don't need. And I'm again going to crease and fold where the original fold was in the envelope. And again, then I'm going to fold it back this way so that when they are attached, the tea-dyed paper is on the inside and you'll be able to see this window on the inside and this window on the outside. At this point, I kind of attach them just with a paper clip or a little clip because I'm going to trim them so that they're all lined and flush right there. Next, I'm going to take my crocodile corner rounder or corner chomper, and I'm going to just chomp the edges so that they're round. I actually want the half, I'm going to use the 1/2 inch, so I'm going to change my mind there. Next, just because when I pull out my journaling cards inside of these, I do like to be able to see something behind the window instead of seeing the parts of the envelopes. So next I will choose some sort of piece of paper to glue down. I have like a music sheet, and then I also have a book written in French. So I'll use maybe the music paper. I'll use the text paper on this one, and then I'll do the music paper on the inside one. So I will glue those down also in place. So for this one, I'm gluing it on the back side of the tea-dyed paper. And I'm just going to trim it down to make it a little bit easier real quick here. And for this one, I will be using just my Yoo-Hoo glue stick to glue it down. And then I'll just trim it off. And you just want to make sure that you're staying inside the fold line, but you also want to make sure that when the window is over it, that you're going to see the text. And since I'm using a smaller piece of paper than what the size of the envelope is, just make sure you don't put glue where you don't need to. Otherwise, you'll end up gluing your whole thing together. I accidentally ripped that off, but we'll just kind of glue that back into place. I don't think, it doesn't really matter. We're not going to see it, but since there's glue behind there, I'm just going to glue it back into place. So that looks pretty good. And then the other thing I like to do at this point too is I like to decide if I want a notch in my paper or not. And I'm just going to use this circle punch. And this one's kind of dull, so I might have to cut part of it out with my scissors. Oh, it cut pretty good there. So. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing to this sector right here. And I think I'm going to change my mind. I'm not going to use the music paper. I still have some more of this paper right here. So I'm just going to glue some of that down inside of here. I think that might look kind of nice behind the window. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'm just going to cover the whole thing with glue. And again, when I'm gluing down the paper, I'm making sure that I'm not putting it over the fold because I want this to be able to fold easily. And then I am also going to decide on the back side if I want a notch on this piece also. So I did that one at the top. Yeah, I'll probably do this one at the top too. And because I'm going through so many layers of paper, my punch isn't going to work. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut out some of this by hand. And because this is white right here, I'm going to go ahead and glue this back down onto the back piece right here. So then my next step is I'm going to go ahead and distress all of my edges that will be seen. So I'll do the outside of all this one. And then I'll also do the tea-dyed paper. So now that I have finished distressing my edges. I am also going to now take this over to my sewing machine, and I'll do that off camera. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to sew around this whole thing on the edges. And then I will also take the tea-dyed paper and I'm going to sew around the whole way around. And then once I'm done with that, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I will then go through my sewing machine and I will put these two together and I will sew down the middle right here. And then I'll come back and show you what that looks like. And then my next step is going to be, then I'm going to glue down to create my pockets on both sides. So I'll put a little bit of glue right up here, 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 and here, and then I'll still have my pocket. And so I will be back after I do some stitching on my sewing machine. I just finished sewing and I wanted to share that with you guys. And then I'm going to glue my pocket shut, and decorate the front and backs, and add some journal cards. And so here is how I sewed around the tea-dyed pages on the inside. I went around each of these sectors, and I did these separate before I sewed down the middle. I went around the window, and I did the same thing on the front side here. I went around, and then also here. And then once I did that on both of these, I went ahead and I stitched down the middle so that I attached the two pieces of envelopes together. And if you wanted to, again, you could sew these two sides shut, but I find it just as easy to go ahead with a little bit of glue and sew them and attach them shut that way. So I'm going to go ahead and just put some tacky glue up on each edge so that I can make these into pockets. So that one is a pocket now, and then we're going to do the same thing for this one. And then at this point, I also like to take my distress ink one more time and go around anything, because sometimes when you sew them and you attach them together, there might be a little bit of white showing. And so I just like to hide that a little bit with inking the edges. You can also kind of trim it if you need to with your scissors if it's too much excess hanging over. But I usually find that just a little bit of ink covers that up. And so now the next step is and I'm going to just attach these shut while we're maybe working on the front so that they have a chance to dry, because that one just came undone. So now we are going to decorate the front, or we could also work on the journal cards. So maybe I'll work on the journal cards while that's drying real quick. So I did pre-cut some. I have some leftover cardstock, and I will often cut it down to size. And so you want it to be smaller and big and small enough to fit inside your pockets. And I inked the edges and I corner rounded them. And you could, of course, do some collaging and show something through the window if you wanted to. And for now, I'm just going to choose to add some page tabs to them. And I already pre-punched these before I started filming. And I just used the Stampin' Up! Whale Tail tab punch. Just going to put a little bit of glue on that. And so I'm going to roughly estimate. So if that was inside, I want my tab to be right there. So we'll do that. And then we'll do the back side one. So that one's going to be up at the top also. So again, if you wanted to, you could go ahead and collage on these and decorate them more. Sometimes I don't like to add anything more to them until I'm actually using them in a journal, or I've added this into a journal and I know what kind of theme I'm going with, because I might add some more sentiment or a rubber stamped image onto these. So for now, I'm just going to leave them blank, and then we'll put them in at the very end. Next, I do want to decorate the front and the back slightly on this one. And I hope that that's dry enough now so I can take these clips off. And so we're going to decorate the front and the back. So on the front, I kind of pulled a few things out of my stash. I was thinking I had this little leftover piece of cardboard. And I have this digital image of the Eiffel Tower. I think this digital image comes from Christie Art Design on Etsy. And I'm going to put some eyelash trim behind there. And I do kind of want to make it into a tuck spot or a pocket. So I have this little piece right here. I might cut it down over here. And then I can make it into a tuck spot for a little tag. So I think that's what I'm going to do with that one. So I'm going to start by adding some eyelash trim. And I usually find my eyelash trim at the thrift store. But you can also buy it at Hobby Lobby. And sometimes it's called eyelash yarn. It's also called fun fur. Then I think I also want to add a little sentiment. This one says memories, and I'm just going to trim off the little side. It is a little tab piece of ephemera, but I'm just going to cut it off so it's like that. And I'm going to attach that. I'm going to go ahead and attach just a little bit of lace right here also. For that, I'm going to go ahead and use my Fabri-Tac glue. Then I'm also going to add, I think, a little flower on here. I like it up there, so I'll go ahead and add that also. Then I'm going to go ahead and flip it over and decorate the backside. So I do apologize, my battery died and I didn't realize it. I don't think I got too far decorating the backside, but I believe what you guys missed seeing was I had glued down a piece of ephemera that said like Vocal Beauties Opera or something like that, and I had previously stitched around it and cut it off because I wanted to make it a tuck spot. I also added this little piece right here and I made it a tuck spot. And my next step is I was going to glue down a piece of lace down here. And I'm still thinking I'm going to add some sort of little sentiment also on here. And then, of course, some tags into those spots. And so I do apologize that the camera, my battery died. And you guys missed me talking about what I was going to do and then starting that little process. But I'm glad I caught it when I did and I didn't get very far, so. And then I had found this tag in my stash. I know I got this stamped image from somebody in some Happy Mail and I had glued it down onto a tea-dyed tag, manila tag that I already had, and I added a piece of music sheet and I just kind of stitched around it. So I'm going to use that for this back pocket. And then for this front one, I have some of these tags. They came off of a scrapbooking paper that I'm not quite sure which company it was from, but it was from a paper pad I picked up at Tuesday morning, and it was like a ephemera sheet where you cut out all the tags in it. And so I have some of those tags left. And so I'm going to stick one of those in there. And I do have some lace sitting on my desk, so I am going to add that to the top of this tag. And then for this one, I'm going to go ahead and also hole punch it at the top. You could add an eyelet if you want, but I'm just going to leave it. And for that one, I'm just going to go ahead and add some of this eyelash trim to the top of that tag. I'm going to add this sentiment. It says, I don't know if it's going to show up on the camera. It says, thinking of earlier days. I'm going to ink the edges. And I'm not one to really trust stickers on projects, so I usually add just a little bit of glue to them. Just trying to decide where to put it. Well, I'll just set it there, I guess. That works. And then on the inside, you can of course decorate that if you want to. I did have this little flower floating around on my desk, so I did ink the edges, and I'm just going to glue that up at the top just as a little extra embellishment. You could add some eyelash trim if you wanted to underneath it. And if you wanted to, you could have added some sort of rubber stamp, and maybe I'll still do that. And I should have done that before I started decorating the front. We'll try it and see if it works. I'm just going to press a little extra hard, knowing that the back side's decorated. Turned out pretty good, I guess. So that says journal, and I guess, let's see. This is from a company called Magenta, and they're a Canadian company. It's a really old stamp. I don't know if they still sell rubber stamps or not. But I've had that in my stash a long time. So then the last step, of course, is to go ahead and add your journal cards into your pockets. So I just realized I forgot to stick some sort of tag in this pocket. So I'm just going to go ahead real quick and add a tag. I'll add some sort of trim to it. So here's our finished double window envelope page hugger with pockets. And I'll hold it up close so you guys can see it. So there is a tuck there, so both of these do come out, and you do see the window envelope. So if you were to journal on the journal card, of course you'd be able to see your writing, or if you added some sort of collage onto your journal card. But that does pull out, and if you pull it out, you can see the cute little text paper that we have back there with some French words on it. And that opens up, and there's all this journal real estate or spots to journal on the inside. And again, that's what it looks like. And then you close it, and this is the back side, and so there's a tag back here and a tag right here. And so if I were to, again, use this in a journal, I would hug my page. So if this is the page in my journal, you would hug your page with it. And no matter what side of your journal it was on, then you would attach it with some sort of paper clip. So you could have a paper clip up here and have it decorated also. So that would be really cute. I'd probably do the decorated side on this side if this was my journal. Like that. Thanks again, everybody, so much for joining me, and hopefully you enjoyed this 4th installment of Creating with Window Envelopes. Again, today we created the double window envelope page hugger with pockets, and I will be back next week with another version of Creating with Envelopes. So until then, I hope you guys all have a wonderful day and happy crafting.